Space Godzilla. Ever heard of him? You know what the thing is? I hadn't either, which is really surprising because I'm a huge Godzilla head. But you learn something new every day, you know? What a little surprising treat for me. Um, of course, my favorite Godzilla film is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. It is the best. I think we can all agree. But if it's anything like that, I think I'm in for a real treat, right? If anyone knows anything about Space Godzilla, let me know. I will be throwing that on tonight, so and I know nobody watches these, so it's good. It's all good, man. Um, but yeah, Space Godzilla, dude. I've just been thinking about him all day. I can't wait to watch. But you know, maybe I'll do a double of that in Mechagodzilla. Maybe we'll see. Time will tell. Time will tell. But anyway, I'm here to talk about another giant monolith that also, like Godzilla through the eras, has had to battle for his own superiority. Of course, I'm referring to men. hmm And in primitive times, men were the strongest, so they dictated the rules. Then polite society developed, catalyzed by classic female manipulation, you know what I mean? And it becomes unthinkable to hang the threat of physical violence over the weaker sex. They let it slip for sure, man. Like, you give up that much power, fucking idiots. But no matter your feelings on women's rights, I'm staunchly against. I mean, a woman like me should be institutionalized, killed even. And yet here I am, free to wander the streets. But for all the bad things that men do, like sit next to me on the bus and motion for me to take my headphones out and proceed to play the worst cover of Wonderwall you've ever heard on acoustic guitar, and then be like, "You like that?" Like, no, I no. And then he smashes his guitar everywhere, and then I think, well, I will probably be stabbed in the throat with one of those shards later. But men aren't all bad. Some of them are real great. I had a neighbor that recently, I've been real down about old Bugley, a bug man, and he was like, look, I have these UFC drinks, no questions asked. I didn't. I probably should have. I was like, "Yeah, okay." I don't even know what that meant. They're alcoholic drinks, but I think it's like fight milk. I think there's like peptides in it or something. I don't know. I didn't even ask. All of them were open. They were like in plastic jugs. I'm not even sure if they were UFC branded. I'm not even sure what those drinks were, but I took them anyway. And he was like, "Look, let's go out to the sidewalk. Let's go out to Hollywood Boulevard. Let's drink our UFC drinks and let's throw things in front of the lime scooters." And I was like, dude, that is the most moving, touching thing I've ever heard. That's exactly what I want to be doing right now. So they're not all bad, see? But there is a better side to them. While some show complete disregard for shame, others have allowed it to subdue them. For instance, at my work, all the women there, they see, two dudes like laughing, getting along, and they're just like, those fucking assholes. You doing? Are they sitting over there laughing? Laughing about women's rights, no doubt. Misogynistically scheming. They're talking about how much they hate us and how much they hate us in the workplace. We should kill them. And I'm like, look, maybe. But also, okay, a gathering of women should more likely probably be called a mass frenzy. The way that we take the most benign shit and burn thousands of calories jumping to conclusions. Oh my God. It is fun though. So the next time that, your spouse or your girlfriend starts really frustrating you with her hysteria, know that we are having a ton of fun doing it. um but you know what? Here's the thing. I hate it though in a way that they consider me like a gender traitor in the way that it's like I'm not totally sold on, picking up arms for their manufactured identity wars. Because you know what? Here's the thing. I really think it's heartwarming to see men be men, you know? It's like I love it. It's like, they're just hanging out, shit talking, talking sports facts at each other, describing some video game in excruciating detail, showing each other YouTube videos, It's like they're not even thinking about us. It's cute, like how like a soft penis is cute, and they're so cute like that. And then when they get hard, it's like it's a little bit, that's a little bit of a threat. Now we're in a little bit of airy situation, depending on the context and where you are. Um, but I don't think that masculinity is earned by force or feeling superior without anything to back that up. Because let's be really honest, like most men look like they microdose fent and knock off electronic gambling devices in Nevada gas stations. You have to earn status and respect. You don't get that by yelling at your grandmother, who you also live with. Masculinity posturing is one of the most disgusting things on this planet to me. It's just one of the most distasteful, disgusting things I've ever witnessed in my entire life. Sigma, it's all vibes based, man. Confidence is an attractive quality in all humans. Like, if you don't have confidence, fake it. And it's actually very easy when you purposely give yourself dissociative identity disorder. But I get it. That's a lot of pressure, you know. I had this male boss, I won't say how recently, that I had to like train to chill with the boys. Didn't know how to do it. He was constantly scaring the bros. Like he didn't know how to just like hang, not try so hard, and it's like, look, you gotta pick out the weakest one in the group, rouse them into submission, earn their respect, and then just let it ride, dude. There's nothing worse to a bro than having to be like, dude, like chill. We're all good, dude. Like, we're all good, man. He simply just could not survive in his natural habitat. It was a very sad thing to see. And I feel like many men are in this position where group cohesion is frowned upon, and it becomes uncouth to say that many people do not understand that individuals and historical or institutional patriarchy are not the same. The dissolution of gender roles is both a good and bad thing. Now that women have waded more into positions of power, we realize maybe we don't really want it. We want equality, not superiority. This transformative period has put heterosexual relations in a really precarious position. There are no demands on us in this situation, but instead we stack the burden on men. We want them to be the provider both financially and emotionally. Make sure to make enough that we have a comfortable life, but also be home to see the kids off to school and eat together as a family every night. Don't feel trapped, but if you have some time for yourself, don't take it, or else it's going to be met with passive aggressive comments. Be a sounding board for my complaints and apologize for all your shortcomings, but still be enthusiastic about taking me out on dates and fuck me like a Roman soldier on amphetamines. Chris Rock had a bit about the differences between men and women, and he explains that a man is only loved under the condition that he provides something. He later asks the crowd, when men meet a new woman, what's the first thing that his friends ask? What does she look like? When a woman meets a new man, the first thing her friends ask is, what does he do? You want the feminine side of things? Watch my Werewolf Woman, Ms. 45, and Lady Vengeance triple that I did. Also, my Smile 2 and Substance video, my Antichrist and Die My Love video. But for once, let's hear it for the boys. In Straw Dogs, that came out in 1971, Fight Club, that came out in 1999, and The Surfer, that I can't shut the fuck up about, that came out in 2024. So my man, Peckinpah. You probably could have already guessed I love Peckinpah. I have this type, Milius Peckinpah. Oh gosh, just adore him. But he offers us a great look at the traditionalist masculinity of the silent generation. An entire generation characterized by their insistence upon keeping their heads down and doing things according to what has been proven to work. They lived through the Great Depression. Their parents had fought in World War I and had been child laborers. Sensitivity was of no use in this era. If your delicate nature was not backed by nobility, it was workhorse from you by your assigned industrialized ghetto. These were no nonsense people. There was no time for the fancy free. Women were not withheld from the workforce, but still expected to make the home. So the silent generation women taught their boomer girls to stay home. There was no sense in having two jobs, one of which didn't even pay. Then they went crazy with their whole life was confined to staying indoors and having no autonomy or individuality. I think we've turned a corner now that the ability to stay out of the workforce is considered a luxury again because, after all, there is a compromise between domestic servitude and boss bitch. Um, but how did men evolve during that time? The responsibilities and expectations were piled on year by year. And look, I don't think it's right for men to hit women and feel entitled to sex. But as a feeling, I understand how power dynamics in the workplace may directly lead to them at home. When I personally come home from taking shit all day, I appreciate the fact I live alone. Finally, a place without expectations. And honestly, it must have felt great to have somebody happy to see you, ready to massage the stress away, make you a drink, cook you a meal, clean up after you, then climb into bed with clean sheets you didn't have to wash, your clothes pressed and ready for you the next morning. The home is supposed to be a fortress of peace. Straw Dogs is a film that would agree with this. Peckinpah, of course, takes this idea to its most extreme. Now, Peckinpah is a complicated man, but some of the best are. Straw Dogs did not exist without its pearl clutchers, of course. Probably even modern day pearl clutchers. Because, yes, the film does feature rape, something he did write into the screenplay that wasn't in the original novel. And I haven't read the book, but I doubt I would like it more than something created with Peckinpah's flair. So the film features Dustin Hoffman as David, an American intellectual that moves to the English countryside with his wife Amy, who is originally from that area. It's a small town that many people don't escape. His wife's ex still lives there, and right off the bat, the locals are not too thrilled at the outsider among them. In a way to ingratiate himself, he hires his wife's ex and his friends to do some construction work on the outside of the house. Now, there's some tension in the marriage, of course. David can be condescending. Amy, in turn, emasculates him, accuses him of running away from his problems instead of being assertive and standing up for himself. His passivity pushes Amy to become increasingly whorish around the workmen just to get a rise out of someone. Their cat ends up murdered. David can't muster up the courage to say anything. The construction boys end up taking David out for a hunting trip, but abandoning him in the remoteness to come back and sexually assault Amy. Which is not just a major point of contention because of the subject, but because Amy does appear to enjoy it a little at the beginning. I mean, she's kind of been craving a fuck like that, and then things spiral out of her control. I think coupled with the fact that the story culminates in David offering sanctuary to a developmentally disabled man who killed a girl that was sexually taunting him in the village is what really earned the film such feminine outrage. David is, of course, not privy to this information when he takes that guy in. All he knows is he's accidentally hit him with his car, and then something just snaps when a mob shows up outside of his house and demands entrance to hang the man that he's harboring inside. His cracked glasses, characterized on the most famous poster, but obviously happens in the film. But he has this cracked glasses really represent his fractured psyche. His aloofness throughout the film finally allows him to be calculating when it's most needed. The scene is set with swirly fog and diegetic lighting. David uses various clever and mathematical ways to defeat his home invaders by brute force. He's unmatched, but his intellect is more than theirs combined. He becomes a fury of commanding rage. For 20 straight minutes of siege, Amy realizes once again how her desires for unfettered male aggression is akin to a flame. Jumping into an uncontained brush fire is different than running your hand over the top of a scented candle. When all is said and done, he smiles proudly and calmly replies, I got him. I got 'em all. As much as I say the film is not for modern sensibilities, I believe it might be more important now than ever. The more we evade nuance, the more pressure we allow to build. Eventually, even the meekest of men have the ability to explode with cataclysmic force. Now, Fight Club is the rally cry of Gen Xers, my favorite generation of men. And any study in masculinity that doesn't include the film doesn't belong in any serious discourse. It's one of my favorite films of all time. And sure, its critics have determined it the textbook definition of toxic masculinity, glorifying domestic terrorism and romancing ultra violence. And I would say these are all the things that I actually love about the film. And even though I'm not supposed to, I will break the first rule and talk about Fight Club. And I do expect to be murdered by the minions of Project Mayhem, or forever may they all live in shame. Honestly, this is a challenge to them. Please come kill me. But anyway, so Gen Xers were raised by boomers. Their generation and mine have that in common. And as the narrator explains, the previous generation did everything to teach the consequent generations that work was a means to fulfill their consumerist nature. Whole generations of men who plowed the field and harvested their labor for sustenance became wage workers who bought a home in the suburbs, who then became office workers, who dwindled away their existence in an apartment and satiated their uselessness with stuff. The result of a generation raised by housewives who survived by their ability to comply and acquiesce. The resulting males became servile, which developed into apathy. The counterculture was all but completely vanquished. Until the narrator met Tyler. I am Jack's resurgent masculine pride. Throughout their fight club, the narrator releases his oppression in the most brutish and base way, shocking the system into awareness. Tyler is a flamboyant and incendiary figure, quite literally in some senses, which excites the narrator's listlessness. But these feelings also breed discontent. Society's foundation is in service to thoughtless obedience, which has now become unbearable. Therefore, society must be crumbled. At first, Tyler's mild antisocial disruptions cause a certain amount of the right chaos, but it requires more and more for the same satisfaction. Toppling the credit card companies, the very infrastructure of the consumerist machine, eventually becomes the main focus. And by any means will they get there. And I know the movie's almost 30 years old, but I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who still hasn't seen it. So let's just say the narrator eventually comes into direct opposition to his own psyche. His desperate plea for worth antagonizes his conditioned response to explosive change. We met the narrator at quite a strange time in his life indeed. While it may predict the modern man's turn towards extremism, we've done nothing to stop it. So now the millennials' turn. If you can't beat 'em, become mentally ill. Suffer surf. the meditative motto of this film. The crisis of modern masculinity forms itself into the perfect cult. As if Philip K. Dick wrote Big Wednesday, Nicolas Cage was perfect, Julian McMahon, oh, just a revelation, really. I think this is maybe his last film, but he's so good in it. So Nick Cage gives us a man obsessed, the localist surfers driving not just himself, but the audience insane. Were these men competing in the gaslighting Olympics, or was he truly turned mad by overexposure and the pressure cooker of societal expectations? He just wants to surf, but the surfer gang won't let him have access to their turf. Instead of fleeing the scene or finding another place, he's not gonna back down. He decides to do possibly the most psychotic thing possible and just hunker down and wait. Right there in the parking lot. He watches, he wanders, he hears rumors from the local homeless man that these men are violent, but as the movie goes on, nothing's really clear. Nick is dead set on buying a house above the beach, but neglects his job and the insistence of his ex wife that nothing's going to bring their family back together. In fact, she's pregnant with her new fiance's child. But he can't really shake the embarrassment he suffered on that beach in front of his son. Events begin to happen, things are stolen, but everyone acts as if Nick is another psychotic, delusional ne'er do well. As he hangs on to an empty dream, his material possessions and mental state begin to disappear. But it's just at this point that he's introduced to the drug fueled philosophy of suffer surf. By now, I hope that you've come to understand that toxic masculinity in cinema is intertwined, like surrealism and Dali, cubism and Picasso, impressionism and Van Gogh. It makes for so many beautiful thematic avenues. The way Julian McMahon compares masochism with progress. Generations of men taught one thing, scolded, and to the retreated, immobile state they see before them. But there is a solution, likened to the surfer in the sea. The incessant hounding of the waves, the violent undercurrent, molding the experience with different intensity, just trying to get that vibe when it's your turn for a ride. Dominating an indomitable entity, conquering, soaring in unrestrained freedom. But before you can earn flight, you must truly understand the dynamics behind the craft. Tossed from your board until you find your way. For this place is your salvation. You're just a small part of the many different facets that define the massive ecosystem of the sea. Eventually, you become a part of it, haven from any definition. Suffer, surf. Directed by one of my new faves, Locke and Finnegan, an Irishman that I did feature in my Irish horror series with the great Without Name. I fear that I haven't really actually done the film justice with my words, so I just recommend that you go watch and descend into its beautiful yet brutal narrative. Fittingly shot in the feral landscapes of Australia, it's one that's going to catch you off guard in the best way possible. And so there it is, Sam Peckinpah, David Fincher, and Locke and Finnegan's modern study of masculinity. And as an extra little treat for the boys, I'll end with Marcus Aurelius. The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane.